So I kind of needed to take a break from talking about football for a few days because Sunday was just too painful. Let's get into it. So I think it was my mistake and several Giants fans' mistake to look forward to the upcoming week so quickly because we kept saying that, yes, they got to beat the Eagles twice, but if they could just get one of those games, because the Rams and the Saints, we got those 6-7. Are you kidding me? Both of those teams, we got this. We can't lose. We're not going to lose those guys. Well, they were thoroughly dominated by, at the time, the 6-7 New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. Dominated. It was kind of the worst version of a game. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes in a blowout where it's over after the first quarter and second quarter, sometimes that's better than the slow, inevitable, painful loss, but the torture that you're technically still in the game. And for Giants fans, a similar game to like that was like Seattle when they played Seattle earlier, when it was kind of like obvious that the Giants were going to lose the entire game, but they were still in it until the beginning of the fourth quarter when Daniel Jones threw that. And that's how it solidified. But versus the Saints, the Giants were in it 7-6, but you knew like, wow, they just don't have the defense doesn't have it today. Like, even though they only gave up 7 points in the first half, there were still moments where you're like, man, this defense doesn't look as sharp today as you think. Right? Whether it was giving up some big runs or just some easy plays, they just looked discombobulated. The communication wasn't there. And New Orleans quickly made some adjustments in the second half that picked them apart. And the defense was awful in the second half. And that's something that could not happen for the New York Giants. They needed to play good defense. It's just almost, it just has to be the thing. It's become the identity of this team. Tommy DeVito makes enough plays to get the job done. And the defense does their job. And they didn't do their job. And yes, the Giants offense was pretty terrible. But I know it's going to sound like I'm defending him. And, with a great quarterback, this doesn't happen. And yeah, you're probably right. I never said Tommy DeVito was a great quarterback. I just said we needed to see if he could be a consistent starting quarterback. Despite the Giants only scoring the amount of points that they did, I didn't think Tommy DeVito was that bad. The only thing I saw was just some sacks that were just poorly taken. There was specifically one play where they were in field goal range and he went back so far and took the sack, took him out of field goal range. Stuff like that can't happen. You gotta know when to get rid of the ball. The awareness has to be there. And we've seen him over the past few weeks improve on that awareness, specifically against the Packers, where he was using his legs all over the field. And even in times in the Saint game, you could see that too. The issue is, I don't know what happened with the receivers. Just the entire team did not come ready to play. And there were times when Tommy DeVito threw great passes to Wendell Robinson, Darius Slayton, right through their hands. There's nothing he could do about that. It was right there. They got to catch it. It's really that simple. And that's lost momentum right there. So then the defenses come back on the floor more and more. And just the entire game plan looked flat. And not just the game, the entire team in general looked flat. And I was very disappointed to see that because it almost seemed like, I don't know why they would think this, but it almost seemed like they were just like, okay, we got to beat the Eagles or something. And they just ignored the Saints. And the Saints dominated and thoroughly looked like the better team and just running it all up on the Giants defense. And it was just disgraceful, honestly, with the effort. It just, the whole game, it felt like they were sleepwalking. Even when they were only down 7-6, it felt that way. So now what does this mean? I made a video last week. I said, this is why I didn't want to tank. I wanted to be in the playoff hunt. Are the Giants out of the playoff hunt? Technically, no, they're not. But they are. This team's not beating the Eagles twice in a row. I understand the Eagles just lost to Seattle. who they themselves aren't great, but they had a chip on their shoulder and in exciting fashion, and the Eagles have not looked like their best as of late. I just, why should I think that the Giants are going to win that game? Why? What makes me think that's going to happen? It hasn't been done in the Brian Dable era. Tommy DeVito would have to really put on some magic. And man, it pissed me off. Now, I'm not blaming them. I completely understand it from their perspective, but man, it's annoying when Tommy DeVito gets sacked and the Saints defense is going like this, mocking them. And it's really frustrating when DeVito throws a couple good passes and the receivers can't catch them. That's really frustrating. It's really frustrating that this was a day where the defense didn't show up. I was very disappointed. And I don't know. I just think it was a situation where the players just came out flat. I'm not sure you can't blame this on Dable or Wink. Wink's been doing a good job ever since the Seahawks game, for sure. You can't deny that. Dable's been much better since Tommy DeVito came in. He's got a quarterback that's making plays for him. And I think the players just came out flat. And maybe for some reason, I don't know why, I felt like they were full of themselves. There was, I don't understand. So now the Giants go in on Christmas Day, and now if they have any hope of making the postseason, they have to win all 3 games left. And considering that 2 of them are against the Eagles, probably won't happen. That's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because this was a game they could have won. A mediocre team. But the Saints played way better than them. And there's nothing really else to say. That's just been the case. And so for the future, do I still want the Giants competing in these games? Yeah, I do. Just give it your all. Right? And they may lose, And yeah, the draft pick may not be great. And I was fully aware that this could happen. But to me, the draft is such a crapshoot that you can't just not give yourself a chance to go to the postseason when there's a chance. And the Giants still have a shot, even though it's unlikely. I would have felt way better if they beat the Saints and lost to the Eagles next week. But that's not what happened. I mean, they still might lose the Eagles next week, but the Saints game was very important and they did not win it. And considering that the Rams offense at their best is really good, even if they do beat the Eagles, are they going to beat the Rams? Are they going to beat the Eagles again? It's unlikely. Very unlikely. And I said this, I didn't expect the Giants to make the playoffs this year, but as a fan of the team, I was rooting for it and I wanted to watch meaningful football. And technically, I will be watching meaningful football on Christmas. But man, doesn't it just lose something now that the Saints game happened? I mean, I just think just a win or go home game basically was what these games are. These are all playoff games for the Giants, technically. And to see them come out in that flat effort, it's just unacceptable to me, honestly. And I was very disappointed. But we'll see what happens versus the Eagles. I'm just hoping it's not a somewhat of an entertaining game on Christmas. Doesn't kind of ruin my Christmas day. But we're going to see.